Well, hello there, everybody. It says that I am alive and thriving, and I agree with that. Hello, how are y'all?
Well, hello there,
Favor
everybody.
everyone, and let me turn my headset off because that's like hearing yourself coming and going. But that happens quite often. So, welcome everyone. Thank you for tuning in. And let me just make sure I pause that. I did. So, we are doing excellent. What else happening? Let me get back over here. I like that side. So, it all works out. And let's get over there. So, I am live. And what's up with the light? I mean, seriously. I mean, I write here all the time and only when I go live. So I guess that says that the spirits are dancing all around my head. Makes me glad that I'm not dead. Ricky Tai Tai. There you go. That's all I got to say. Hey, John Price, what's up? Robin, good to see you. Deborah, Sloan, Tessa, how you doing? Isby, Michelle, it's good to see you. David Castle, much love to you, beloved Abstract. Hey, Nina the Mystic, you got your show hump day today. Let's see, Miss Sherry, good to see you. Grandpa Brian, good to see you, my brother. Susie Q, how are you? Emerald Eagle, good day to you as well. No Pause Clark, hello, what's going on? Mr. Sullivan, good to see you. And Mr. Price, Crystal, good to see you as well. And Gilbert, welcome. Hey, Big Al, what's up? And wow, I was reading some pretty interesting information in the previous about all this jib jab, as they would say. Envoy of the dragon, and upon me shall you not tread. Indeed, I say, fly it high, fly it proud. That's all I got to say. Hey, Martin Heidi, much love to you, and much love to Tony. Much love. And I'm sure Gaia and Paul is coming in. Lost in Space. Good to see you, my brother. Real Detective UK. Good point that you brought out. Everyone said, check it out. Marissa, there you are, Gaia. I knew you were there. Janie, what's up? Robert Scott, hello. So, favor over us all. Be of service to others. It's never a bad thing. And hit the like button. You tell them, Susie. Absolutely. Hit the like button. And happy birthday if you got one, and an anniversary. Go for it. Hey, Maddie, what's up? Good to see you. Eye of the Maelstrom and Janie. Hello, cowboy. Think Agape Love. Good to see you as well. So many good people. Go. What's happening? So we are prospering. The soul tribe is prospering. I am prospering. I say it all the time. Go by the mirror. I say, I am prospering. Lynn is prospering. We are prospering together. The soul tribe is prospering. And thank you for your gifts and talents, Mr. Poyel and Ariel. Ariel, the angel of revelations. I love that. Deus Revelator. Does that sound great? Deus, yeah, Deus Revelator, the revealing God, many different gods. Someone was asking the question, which or which God connected to the 72 angels? Well, that's up for debate. I think where it really comes down to is, what is your image of God? We all have one of some sort of another. So if whatever it is here, where the spirit takes that point of possession, apply it. That's what I say. I love this. Patron of meditation and people gifted with clairvoyance, clairaudience, and clairsentience. Oh, man. A lot of them here. Yeah. Teaches how to enhance psychic abilities and revelatory perceptions. Gotta love this, man. And of course, Poyel, angel of fortune and support. Deus Fliensis Omnia. I love that. God sustaining everything. Patron of renown and celebrity. protected of positive thinkers. He's our protected. Hey, Teresa, what's up? Good to see you. Brings fortune and wealth on every level of life. So we thank him. And prospering is in all different ways. I have a question. How many of you are experiencing healing? I mean, it can be some very small things. Gotten messages where people are experiencing healings in such thing as neuropathy. That's not a bad thing. So, if you're prospering, it means that you're prospering spiritually first. That's where it all starts. It gets into the soul. Once you got soul, you can dance, you can sing, you can do your thing. It's your thing. Do what you want to do. I can't tell you what, who to sock it to. There you go. Back in the day. Hello, Roaring and Martin's laughing. So anyway, that's what happens. And then it gets into the body and the body picks it up. How many of you have grandkids that, the little ones, I'm talking 6 months, a year old, when they get around music, it's amazing how many of them have natural soul. They got the thing going on. So anyway, that is where we are. God is simple planetary making terraformer and was mistaken for God. See, lots of different answers, which tells me it is truly the multiverse all the way around. And speaking of angels, so I picked out of the 72 angels the card, and Rael came up. Rael is the angel of liberation. Deus expecteo, the expected God. Ooh, I like that. One of the things that really, if you think about it, if you have expectations where you're expecting, Dickens' book, Great Expectations, I identified with Pip. I don't know about you, but I did. Really did. I mean, Pip was so much a lot of my life, there was a benefactor in it. It's interesting. So, but the point is, if you go in with expectation, most often than not, you're going to find that expectation. And if you never go into anything with expectation, you're probably going to find very little. I mean, and if you do find something, consider it a bonus. Patron of travelers, and prisoners and oppressed people. Patron of nature and wide open spaces. Oh, I like that. Brings supreme and unconditional love, peace, justice, silence. Silence is golden, golden, but my eyes still see. Yeah, we're going to be doing the whole thing today. The jukebox is loaded up. Teaches how to meditate to achieve freedom of mind. Let the mind go and the body will follow, right? Helps to improve the quality of our lives. Allows to discover through meditation the mysteries of God's work and creations. It's a mystery. There's no doubt about it. And it's still going on. Bestows us with power to create, produce, and conceive. Oh, I like that. As a writer, as a creative writer, it's really cool what I tap into because, and many of you who are creative writers, you know what I mean. Symbol of freedom, confidence, conception, and achievement. Bestows us with divine inspiration into our projects. Lay your hands on me, baby. That's all I got to say. Just lay your hands on me. Fills us with energy to search the truth and to spread it around. Oh, mercy me. It has something to do with what we're going to be talking about today, and I'll make reference to it later, but that just is kind of funny. All right. Teaches confidence and how to detach from the material world. Shows how to improve your life through meditation and study. Protects from mistrust and impasses. I like that. Liberation from evil spells, curses, rituals, enchantments, and any form of black or destructive magic. Removes bad company and bigotry. I'm ready for love. Oh, baby. Yeah, you know, bad company. Okay. Cures any excess of ambition, manipulation, and greed. Heals hypocrisy, fanaticism, suspicion, and disloyalty. Wow. Protects from spreading incorrect or harmful ideas and extreme forms of devotion. Did I read that right? I did. Isn't that odd that protects us from extreme forms of devotion? Gonna have to think about that one, aren't we? Okay, so lots of things. We're going to be talking about, you know, for instance, light. What is light? Is light original to creation? And if you compare or ask the question, which came first, light or darkness? Well, if you read most of the manuscripts, and again, they are manuscripts, they say darkness. Darkness is the natural order of all things. Light is, in essence, artificial. I mean, guess it depends on your point of view, right? I mean, seriously, I determine what you want. And we're going to get in a little bit about sex today, because where angels and demons are concerned, sex a big thing. Where humans are concerned, sex a big thing. Where God or gods are concerned, sex is a big thing. But it's the one thing that is so, how shall we say, laden with tabooness. You don't talk about sex, because, well, you can talk about murder, rape, you can talk about genocide, you can talk about starvation, you can talk about the manipulations of what these social media platforms, you can talk about that. Don't talk about sex. Because, sex is only one-dimensional, baby. Yeah. We're such a repressed species. It's pathetic. And sex is one of those things. I know it's the big three. You got God, you got politics, and you don't discuss sex. It's crude. It's crass. It's unbecoming. It's socially unacceptable. And that's exactly how it is, folks. Oh, it is something else. That's all I got to say. Smoke them if you got them, drink them if you want it. But it's so true. And so Scott says sex is good food, helps heal as well. A lot to this. I mean, and again, it's one of those things that, we'll discuss it from, obviously, from a religious point of view. Yeah. Because apparently those type of things are acceptable. We're talking about religion, man. Oh, okay. Yeah, right. By the way, tune in tomorrow night. Let me tell you what, this Steiger Perspective, woo! Just want to let you know martial law is coming. So moving right on along, I found this document because I thought I'd bring in kind of the other third part of the stool, the triad, The world is dominated by the Abrahamic belief system. It's in virtually every government, in most religions, and so often you hear primarily the Jewish, Judeo, or the Christian point of view. And if you study Islam, it's an interesting religion. It's interesting, its origins, and quite interesting in the aspect that there is some theologians who believe that really it was the Catholic Church that started Islam. Because the problem is that the way it was going, it was so heavily sided with the Judaic point of view, and Christianism, and that's what it was, Christianism, was still developing. And it goes into the politics of the time, and et cetera, et cetera. But, Islam is right up there. It's a growing religion, very dedicated. And like the other three, and even the Hindus and many of the other religions, there's a mystic side of it. We've talked about it, the jinn. These are the devils that's in the West. And then again, it gets really interesting. About almost 4 years ago, I did a video talking about the 10 gods. You got to go back and check that out. It's really interesting because there's a lot of validation, for instance, that Yahweh, Jehovah, had no power outside the boundaries that were given in the book of Genesis, particularly Genesis 9 and 10, where he gives Abraham this inheritance. And if you study the Old Testament, you will find out that Yahweh had no power outside the boundaries of what would be considered Israel. And when you look at this from that point of view, it's interesting because, again, you have the Egyptian pathos of their gods, the Greeks, the Romans. And if you study the battles, it seemed like Yahweh, Jehovah, was not allowed to go beyond the borders of Judea. So, having said that, little background of how all of this came about. And if you think about it, it's really interesting because there's a lot to deal with the covenants, going back to the Mosaic covenant, the Davinical covenant of David, and then this new covenant. Very all legalese. But here we go. This is, we did the myths on forbidden knowledge and religion, and we're going to get back. There's 4 other books to that. And here is the story of Haroot and Maroot. These are the Arabic, are the 2 angels mentioned in the second surah of the Quran, who were sent down to test the people of Babel or Babylon, depending what your reference is, by performing deeds of magic. Now, this is interesting because it kind of begins to validate something that we're studying in the 5 lectures on demonology. We have not gone away from that. We're just filling in some of the more interesting aspects of what King's, hypothesis is. And it's interesting how there's a lot of correlation. In the Quran indicates that although they warned the Babylonians not to imitate them or to do as they were doing, some members of their audience failed to obey and became sorcerers, thus damning their own souls. Now, this brings in this whole aspect now of where we left off on Monday, talking about the spirit or the soul. Now, in Christian beliefs, if you go and read the book of Hebrews, particularly Hebrews 4:12, it says that the word is sharper than any two-edged sword, able to split the spirit from the soul, the marrow from the bone. Now, those are pretty dramatic terms. And when you think about that, there's an implication. Paul, the magician, the Apostle Paul, brought it out as well. Now, he wrote about it as a fact that we pass through a fire, and what is left on the other side, the spirit picks up. In other words, it's what the soul really becomes, and it goes on and it gets pretty weird from there. But I thought this was interesting because here we're finding out that humans are being introduced to magic. They're warned not to imitate what these angelics are doing. And this is really interesting because these angels are not the devil angels. These are angels, much to what would be akin to what we've been studying on the 72 angels. And I know there's some theologians that would doubt. So the story of Haroot and Maroot is told again in the second surah, and it is entitled Al-Baskorah, I think that means, or the cow. It appears in the 102nd ayah or verse and forms part of the narrative concerning people who followed sorcery. They followed what the devils gave out falsely of the magic in the lifetime of the Suleiman. Suleiman did not disbelieve, but the devils disbelieved, teaching men magic and such things that came down at Babylon to the two angels. Now, this is real interesting because where do we have a parallel story like this of two angels? Did someone say Sodom and Gomorrah? You're right. Haroot and Maroot, but neither of these two angels taught anyone such things till they had said, "We are only here for trials, so disbelieve not by learning this magic from us." And from these angels, people learnt that by which they caused separation between man and his wife, but they could not thus harm anyone except by Allah's leave. And they learned that which harmed them and profited them not. And indeed, they knew that the buyers of it, magic, would have no share in the hereafter. And how bad indeed was that for which they sold their own selves. You see the correlation? I mean, it's just, yeah. If they but knew, and if they had believed and guarded themselves from evil and kept their duty to Allah, far better would have been the reward from their Lord, if they only knew. Wow. That's, you got to go, And it goes on. I mean, this is well over 500 pages, this particular book. But nevertheless, it does kind of show this threading. Evil is associated with spirits. But what we've learned that demons are really not what we think they are today. Our modern vernacular has changed the perception and thus the interpretation of what demons are. And I guess you could look at one way, it's rather bigoted to look at demons as though they're just all evil. The same bigotry would be reversed in thinking that all angelics are good. Folks, if what we're going to read today, we're going to get right into it. There was a war that took place. Some say it's still taking place. And if we take modern interpretation, we don't see these as angels or demons. We see these as aliens, advanced technology beings that apparently have a life form that has the ability to transmute matter instantaneously. which is really interesting because we learned that angels, these angels that we're studying, the 72 angels of Magick, right? And even if you extrapolate that further, yeah, that's true, Modern Heidi. We are all little devils. Then it means that as well is that the perception that good is above reproach and that evil can only be evil, yeah, not working. And anyway, let's get right on into our book. There is so much to this. It's interesting. So I've advanced on this, and we're going to bring back in this cat, that Satan, the prince of the world, because it's in these references that we're going to go as we get into the further lectures of demonology. You can find out how this belief system has just propagated into every religion. I dare say that it's probably in the New Age movement just as much as it is in the Old Age movement. So we talk about this war mentality. What is evil? We know that it has tangibleness to it. It seems to almost be undefined because it cannot be simply assigned to a species of spirit beings or corporeal beings, or they be temporal beings. There's something much more here. F. Paul Wilson, if you've any read of his books, I would highly recommend, if you want a good fictional book, read Night World. But in one of the trilogy books of Repairman Jack, he gets into this whole thing about, we talk about consciousness. So is supreme consciousness divided by good or evil? Is it bifurcated in its construct? We touched on it a little bit yesterday with Trina and I. There is the thought that if, in fact, there is this supremeness somewhere, that it exists. I doubt it exists in the form of a personification of, an ego. But in F. Paul Wilson, he introduced the thought it's completely indifference. Life is a consequence of simply by chemical reactions, and where spirits are concerned, apparently they're created in the same manner. Doesn't seem to be any big wiggy-woo about, being born into a world and born into the third density. No, it's just a process. We make it a theater here, but the ultimate consciousness would be neither good nor evil. Because once again, we know the 7 principles of Hermetics teaches that good and evil are the same thing. They're just different degrees of separation. And I asked the question, at what point does good become evil, and what exactly point does evil become good? Because there has to be a barrier, a mixing. It's like hot and cold. All right. I only highlighted these out. Boy, time's going by quick. We have seen that primitive people believed in a supreme being whom we refer to as God. What's the problem? It's a catch-all phrase. I mean, if you look at it from the Hebrew point of view, there's 72 different names of God, each meaning a different aspect or personality side of God. Isn't that a multiple personality disorder? Isn't that what they call that? Anyway, I digress. They believed in an evil adversary. Now, I can't validate this, I know that in primitive cultures, they would interpret storms that would destroy crops as a bad omen, things of nature, because they directly impacted the survival of that group of human beings. But anyway, this person writes that an evil adversary, whom we call Satan, because he tried to interfere with God's creation and with his creatures which inhabit the earth. Well, this implies on a parallel path that this creature, and there's no validation that it was ever Satan, but let's just go with that, that then Satan was a very powerful being. And if this God was omnipotent, omnipresent, and all-knowing in its construct, then you have to say it's playing the game. Otherwise, logic would say it would cease. And then again, this is implying that this God, G-O-D, capital G-O-D, well, he apparently, well, he can't be perfect. You see, it's a problem in that if his creation, his heaven, is perfect, it's impossible for imperfection to arrive or even to originate out of perfection. The annihilation principle would take over. But anyway, and this is why picking up the breadcrumbs, that's what we're doing. At some point in time, I hope we have enough that, it's a freaking loaf of bread. So they don't know. They talk about, they don't know any of these dates. It's again, the Hebrews believe that man was created in 36 BCE, somewhere around there. 3654, way back. Well, it's actually not that far back, because, you just go back 1 year and you go, well, where the hell are all the people at? Anyway, then we get into this whole thing that, Paul talks about 7 different levels of heaven, implying that, yeah, you can make it in, but you may not like where you're going to be at. Weird, isn't it? And he says, then the scriptures don't tell us much regarding what happened in heaven after Lucifer. Now you see how he's interchanging Lucifer, Satan. That's where it's mixed up. And his fellow rebels had been cast out. Well, I don't know about you, but if these beings are even remotely as powerful as we are led to believe, I don't know where this war took place, but I do know that the net result would be absolute chaos. By the way, happy birthday, Brenda. It's Brian's mom. So, because, what kind of battle would 2 aliens that we would call angels or demons, probably both, I don't know, I guess they weren't demons up there at the time. They were traitors, rebels. That's, by the way, what Proverbs defines and translates the word fool to be, a rebel. But really, what kind of battle would be going on? Are they using thought weapons? Are they using light weapons? Are they using energy pulse weapons? I mean, what kind of war are they talking about? I mean, if they're using swords, there ain't no kind of sword built here on Earth. I'm just talking. But, the problem is here, you got this huge gap now. Well, don't look at that. It means nothing. Really? But you're telling me that something happened up there. Well, we don't know. But we know the result. That's like going into a math test and they don't give you the equation. They just tell you what supposedly the answer is. Well, that's cheating. because I can manipulate anything I want to achieve the answer. Doesn't necessarily mean it was the right equation or the right answer. And this is what happens. We start filling in this great. But what we do know is that apparently, if you're born here, well, you have an eternal fate at play. Your very soul is in play. Wow. And again, that gets into the debate. Then if I have a soul and I have a spirit, then which one is more important to me? Is my spirit my personality? Is my soul my attributes? He says, what we commonly refer to this entity as the soul and associated with our personal guardian angel. Wow. So it would seem that Lucifer and God are in the business of collecting souls. Wonder what the value is of a soul. So they're both in the same business. Are you feeling like a pawn in this? Yeah. So he says, carrying this theory to its logical conclusion, it would seem reasonable to suppose that God intended to place human beings on earth by a method of birth that prevented their having knowledge of other worlds beyond what he decided to reveal to our first parents personally and to future generations through his prophets and the scriptures. I mean, I'm beginning to get a little tight in here, you know? I can't spread this out. Does this sound like a freaking trap to you? I mean, it's like going into Vegas and you play a game of Baccarat and you don't have a freaking clue what the cards mean. You have no idea of what the currency means. Only what they're going to tell you. Wow. I'm hearing Mr. Skin in my head. We are told that he did walk with Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden, talking with them and explaining to them his holy will and his plan for the rule of the universe, which he wanted to be established on earth as related in Genesis. When I took ROTC, one of the things I was really good at was strategies. If you understand your enemy, then you can understand yourself and you're going to most likely become more victorious. This, I highlighted this because this sounds to me not like a supreme being. No. This sounds to me like a conniving son of a bitch that has got a plan that he wants to take over the whole freaking universe here. But he ain't strong enough and apparently ain't smart enough. I mean, look at this. Now, again, this is this gentleman's, words, but hey, words mean something. So he's walking with Adam and Eve. And in many books, he raped Eve, but this is not near there. Talking with them and explaining to them his holy will and his plan for the rule of the universe, which he wanted to be established on earth first. Whoa. I mean, that's just got freaking alien crap all over it. I mean, you could then look at the Bible as simply as a war plan. This is a war strategy of how to take over a planet, all living, sentient, intelligent life, and then how to spread it out. What was it that the Jesus said? Go ye into all the world and spread this crap. That's a takeover, ladies and gentlemen. It's a hostile takeover, by the way. Wow. Since this being true, our first parents had firsthand knowledge of God, his wishes, his plans, his intentions for them in the future. Now look at what we just read in the Quran. He said he promised that if they respected his wishes and obeyed his commandments, they would, after a period of trial, rejoin him in heaven and live forever in perfect happiness. Now, define for me what perfect is and perfect happiness. What exactly is that? Because what I have found in life, that if you feed a person and basically give in to everything that they have desire or want for, eventually they die. There's something about the merit of a spirit struggling. I would agree with that. We seem to test ourselves all the time because it's not healthy, nor is it good for our progress to be fully satisfied or fully happy all the time. That leads to contempt. So that's like the Quran. You must obey the commandments. Now, it's really interesting about this deity because everyone is familiar with the 10 commandments. But isn't it odd that this same God, Yahweh, the God of the Bible, God of the Quran, it's the same one. He commanded his followers to kill other humans. But yet in his commandments, he says, thou shalt not kill. He just forgot to put the little ask you there, but only when I tell you to. See, this to me, it begins to bring this out. So, all right, so am I dealing now? I mean, to me, I interpret that as evil. You tell me not to kill, that it's against your laws, and you're a perfected God, but yet you just commanded these people to go and completely wipe this whole tribe, this village out. And then you commanded them to cut the babies out of the mother's wombs and then take the fetuses and slam their heads upon the rock. How do you get Jesus out of that? That to me sounds really evil. I digress. Millions of human beings believe in reincarnation. It could be that this belief originates with the knowledge that God's heavens consist of 7 levels. You feel like you're in a Ponzi scheme here? That God's angels were made up of many choirs of varying degree, and that angels of lesser degree advance from one heaven to the other. You know that's implying, don't you? And we're the angels. And also intended that those on a lower plane could, by application, diligence, and attention to spiritual matters, advance themselves to higher levels on earth and higher degrees in heaven. This is what rugged individualism really means. The rugged individualism is what the enemies of God are determined to destroy. But wait a minute, you just told me that I would be in perfect happiness. That doesn't work for us. Obviously, human beings can and do deteriorate spiritually until they reach the stage that they are engulfed in hell. This line of thought would offer some explanation to the reference made to limbo, purgatory, and the fact that Christ, after his resurrection, descended into some part of hell where he released souls who were waiting for their redemption. Now, this gets into some really twisted stuff because you got to ask yourself, well, what were the souls down there for? How did those souls get out? And yet you're putting new souls in there. I mean, yeah, it gets really weird. So it says every living soul knows that God did give us an intellect and an unrestricted use of our wills. Well, let me just caveat that. If you are God, and you give me free will, you don't have a bitch in what I do or say. I have free will. Because if you put restrictions upon my free will, or i.e. consequences, I never had free will to begin with. I had an illusion. I was a servant tricked into thinking that I had a choice. In the end, I never had a choice at all. If God hadn't intended to put us to a test, there would have been no sense in his allowing an adversary, wait a minute, an adversary to oppress his plans, ridicule his wishes, and try to wean us away from God so that we would be possessed by Lucifer, the king of the empire of darkness, whom we commonly call the devil. You see, this is doublespeak. This is witchcraft. Because what this guy is saying here is that this God, this perfected God, created evil. He's got it on the leash, but when he lets loose to oppress you, well, then who's to blame here? And that we could be possessed by Lucifer. If that was only true. And then the kingdom of darkness. But here's the problem on that one. I can take you to the scriptures, and it said, in the beginning was darkness. So by implication here, this God is attacking an existing kingdom that it had no part in, because it wants to bring in light. Now, if you read the Bronze Book, the Colburn Bible, you find out in one of the creation stories that the original life forms here were basically grew up in the light of Saturn. Saturn gave off a golden light. It was very dim. And there were people, there was life that flourished. And then, by their description, God came in. And when he created light, it killed all the life on the planet. And new life had to be created. And even today, the light of our sun, although it helps in the photosynthesis, etc., is still harmful to life. Because as much as we need the light and the photosynthesis in our bodies, the adaptation of vitamin D and other things, too much of it, and it'll give you cancer. Weird. All right. So, oh boy. All right. So he talks about how some theologians believe that the fallen angels lusted for the people of this world. Augustine claimed that the perverted and deprived interpretations of sexual relations adopted by the human race at the instigation of Satan are contrary to God's purposes and intention. The problem is, I can't find anywhere in the Bible where it tells me how to have intercourse with a woman. Didn't tell me anything. Wouldn't know exactly how to even go about it if I stay strictly with the book. Now, I have read in the Apocrypha, the pseudo-Apocrypha, the book of Adam and Eve, the book of Adam. And in there, it was actually, depending on how you want to title the person, Lucifer or Satan, Lucifer taught Adam how to have sex with Eve. Because Adam's point was, and as y'all go back and look at the video, was the fact that Adam said, well, now wait a minute. Wouldn't that be having sex with myself? Because she came out of me. How is that supposed to work? And in the book of Adam, we know that it took years for Lucifer, the angels, however you want to use the term, to finally persuade Adam to know his wife. Well, she wasn't his wife, but you get my idea. This is weird, isn't it? And so now it says the study of opinions expressed by the Catholics and non-Catholics provide evidence which supports the reasoning set forth, that we find several make reference to the fact that Lucifer and his fallen expressed the lustful desire to have sexual relations with and physical control over the bodies of human beings. Says quite obviously they could have developed such desires only as a result of their rebellion against the supreme authority of God. What's going on here? Because if humans were not that adapt to the procreation process, it means there's a lot of screwing going on up in heaven. That these beings must be screwing their freaking brains out all the time. Because if this is the only thing they brought down with them initially, wow. And then it begs the question, so wait a minute. I thought angels were hermaphrodites. So, I mean, folks, this gets weird when you start extrapolating this out. And how they have so well pinned this down to one of the very biggest parts of our ability to control creation. So they took it away from us. Oh, yeah. So this gets into this whole thing. Now, how they've done this is that it says, so apparently angels have sex, which implies that demons must be having sex too. My namesake relative in the Liber Lilith, that was his whole goal. Carl wanted to have coitus with Lilith. It gets into the question, can spirits and human beings in the physical flesh have relations, sexual relations with one another? Just to tell you, the answer is yes. I would not advise it, but yes, you're hooking up to a whole different energy source, which will short things out. But, if that's your goal, have at it. So anyway, so now we get into this point where the adversary Satan, in which that is actually the true definition. Satan is not a physical being. It actually means adversary. He caused Eve to defect from God. She afterwards persuades Adam to join her in the rebellion. Now, in some books, it's where here that Satan and Eve had sex, because Cain was not of Adam's bloodline. Complicated, is it? And then I ask, is this same thing being replicated on other planets? I truly hope not, because it is jacked with us from the very beginning. So now we've got Satan coming in here. He's seduced Eve. That's the word, beguiled. Beguiled means to be sexually possessed. It means to be completely overtaken. So if Satan beguiled Eve, well, she was no virgin when Adam got to know her, that was for sure. So now by perversion of sex, we mean that Satan taught Eve how to use sexual relations to gratify animal passions and carnal desires. Well, that's just admitting exactly what I just said to you. So by this, we can say that Lucifer taught Eve how to masturbate, and that she must in turn must have taught Adam. I mean, this all had to start somewhere, folks. When are we going to grow up? If this story is even true, we can say that there's maybe elements of truth within it. I don't know. So now this is considered Luciferian, because the Luciferian conspiracy would indicate that God intended sexual intercourse to be a holy union between a man and his wife, entered into for the only purpose of allowing God to create and infuse a soul, because he desired to have an opportunity to feel one of the vacancies left in heaven as the result of the Luciferian rebellion. Wow. The bullshit is so deep in this stuff, and I mean, it just gets down. Oh, I can see I'm almost out of time. So now you see, and it goes on for page after page into this whole thing that started with the compilation of a spirit being with a physical being. If Satan or Lucifer is in fact of a spirit origin, then this confirms that these first copulation of a spirit and a physical human being was apparently not only possible, but probably the norm. I mean, you know, we discussed it in there in the library. Lilith told us what happened. She told us exactly what happened. There was so much intercourse going on. And we see this in the mythos of the Sumerian gods, the Greece gods, the Roman gods, the Egyptian gods, the Mayan gods. All the gods love having sex. What a show. That's all I got to say is what a show. I mean, and tomorrow we'll get back into the study now of these demons, because this is a weird thing. Because if there is, in fact, this thing called spiritual DNA, then this would be a case for it. That the spiritual DNA commingled with physical DNA to produce, I don't know, Satan? I mean, if Satan is Lucifer's son, then who did Lucifer? Eve. He's the only one it could be. And then, you know, we're going to get future. I mean, I did an introductory to the lineage of Cain. I don't know. Okay, so what's everyone else saying? So that is the lower chakra, lower vibration, or is sex a power thing? I happen to disagree that it's the lower. I think it's the higher, or damn near close to it. I mean, if you're talking about the ability for the creation of the spark of life itself within the lower chakra, either that is saying that every chakra has the ability to somehow procreate itself. I don't know. I'm just reading some of the comments. You see, this really does get you thinking, doesn't it? I mean, for me, it does, because our modern day equivalency are alien abductions, where there's enough evidence to show that that actually does happen. And the thing about with most of these alien abductions is that there is sexual manipulation taking place. So even the aliens want to get in on the scene. Hey, it's nuts. It's just freaking nuts. It's only sex through love that creates good things. I don't know about that. I really don't. I got to be candid with you. If we were to be real honest with one another, and I asked you at the moment that you orgasm, what exactly were you thinking? Were you thinking of someone else? Were you fantasizing of another clandestine affair? An old lover? I mean, do you really want to get into that kind of honesty? I don't think most people can handle it. Boom, mic drop on that one, baby. Great sex story. You bet you, Al. Oh, all right. Well, no pause. I guess we could do, what was it? That crazy movie Stallone was in, Demolition Man, where sex was just simply mental. Yeah, all right. But I'm just going to be real honest in your face. That's bullshit. Not one of you don't like having sex unless there is something either medical or something that has happened. The vast majority of us love sex. In fact, it still dominates virtually most of the time which humans are awake. May not seem that way, but in the background, it's constantly running. So, and I'm only giving you a lighthearted, that's all. I'm just funning with you, the person that's not to be taken Northern Lights seriously. I'm just telling you, we all like sex, but it's the taboo thing. But again, I asked you, when you're in the middle of copulation or coitus, you can really find out a lot about yourself. What is it that you're thinking at that exact moment? I'm telling you, if you're a master magician, that's a time of creation. If you have desires within you or with your partner, oh man, talk about doing some magic. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to exit out of here. I love these conversations, It's just, it's what being human's about. It's why we're adults, We talked about it as kids. It's just as adults, now we know, Sex energy is good for manifesting. Absolutely. It is powerful and powerful magic. Yes, you can. Isn't that interesting, Linda? You actually can. It's amazing what happens in that moment. It's really the combination of being in all dimensions at the same time. Oh, it's powerful stuff, man. That's all I got to say. It's powerful stuff. All right. I love this group. Y'all are just so much fun to be around, and love the discussions. I know I'm driving the bus, but I do go back and read the chat room. It's always enlightening and it's uplifting. Sometimes it's just because it requires too much energy. There is a lot of truth to that, my dear. All right. Martin, Heidi, y'all have a great evening over there. Give a big hug to Tony for me. Big Al, be safe out there. Teresa, Andromeda 7 tonight, and Nina's tonight. So I think the shows go back one to back of the other, I think. D. Maxwell, much love to you. Everyone else, Deborah Sloan, thank y'all. And we'll see you tomorrow. We'll pick up. This is a fascinating study. I don't care what anyone says. It is a fascinating study. 1 p.m., Nina just said. So that's 1 p.m. Mountain Time, I believe. All right, everyone. Much love to you. Keep yourself laughing. Learn to smile. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, to say, I am prospering. And if you have a significant other, put their name to it right too. And then just give thanks to those angelic beings that got those talents and those skills. There we go.